you spoke about investing in yourself, and that's exactly what my point was. Yes, we all have budgets, we all have to stay within our budgets, but if we make those things, whatever we make a priority becomes a reality, really.
All right, welcome to the Holistic Nutrition Hub podcast. Today I have a previous client / somebody I would now more call my friend and colleague on to talk about what we thought we were going to talk about, all things business, and that business isn't all butterflies and rainbows, which is probably what we're going to end up calling the podcast. But she went on a little tangent just before we started recording, and I want her to kind of come back to that because I think it's something that I've been feeling, and clearly she's been feeling too. So why don't you start with just explaining what your background is and what you're doing now, and then we'll jump into the whole healthcare spiel that you went on.
Okay, so hey, I'm Helen Paquette, and so I met Lynne actually, I believe, online, looking for some support. I believe I came across the Holistic Nutrition Hub and kind of followed along a little bit, and then I guess we started chatting from there, and here we are. So I guess a little bit about me. So I actually have been working within the healthcare profession for the last 10-ish years. Prior to that, always in the helping profession. So always working with children and families, youth, teens, kind of people in general, helping in a number of different ways. So kind of started with age, 2 all the way up to 16, 17 as the director of Head Start daycare / after school program and then youth programming. From there, I kind of went on to homeless youth shelter, where I was the project manager there and director there. And then from there, I moved over to healthcare. And so doing support work out in the community with chronically mentally ill individuals, and helping them to kind of stay within their own environment and getting them into the community and self-sustaining. And so that's kind of where I was. During all of that, of course, I started my family and had, my own children and what have you. And so fast forward a little bit, my daughter started with some issues. We couldn't get in to see any of the proper professionals. It was going to be a 6 to an 8 month wait. So I kind of started to look outside of the box, was not really into the holistic world, kind of felt like it was very hocus pocus. But I also felt desperate. I felt like I had no other choice because I couldn't get into our current medical system as quickly as I wanted to get in. And I felt sorry for her. I felt so bad for her that I couldn't help. So that's kind of when I sought out different types of holistic treatment, well, I'll say, and different holistic practices. And we started to notice a difference within all of the things within a very short time, couple of weeks. I remember at one point we had gone to pick her up. She was 4 years old, so she was in a pre-primary program, French pre-primary program. And the after-school teacher approached us and said, I have to tell you, one of the other students, now remember, she's surrounded by other classmates her own age, 4, 5 at the oldest. And she said one of the kids, one of her peers, came up to her and said, Madame, what happened to Jaylee? She's a nice girl now. So if these little ones are noticing these huge differences to the point where they have to let an adult know, to me, that was pretty huge. So from there, I kind of did my own bit of research, continued to do some treatments with her holistically. So we've seen a naturopathic doctor, homeopathic doctor, we've seen a nutritionist. We did some NAET treatments and so on and so forth, and really started to see some huge improvements. So I started to do my own research and decided back in 2016, I want to say 16, 17, to return to school after I had already kind of built my career in the helping profession, working with children, youth, and families. Currently, practicing in my career, working within the healthcare system. And so from there, I went back and I licensed as a holistic nutrition practitioner. So here I am. That's kind of the story. So just in regards to what we were talking about earlier before we jumped on, just talking about the healthcare crisis that we are currently in, especially here in my own province. So I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada. And we really are in a position where the wait times for individuals to see the doctors in an emerge situation. I remember going in myself over the summer, and there was a big sign on our triage nurse's window that said a minimum of a 15-hour wait before you even seen anybody. And so here we are in this crisis. We currently have, probably 1,500 to 2,000 plus healthcare workers right now who are ready, willing, able, capable to jump into the situation to help their coworkers, to help the community of Nova Scotia in this healthcare crisis, currently funding different healthcare programs to encourage young people to kind of get into this type of career. Yet we have all these healthcare workers that cannot return to work to help because of mandates and things that's been put in place around vaccination and so on. And it's only 2 provinces within Canada that still stands that way. And I feel like here in Nova Scotia, the crisis is so big, and I can't speak to all of the other provinces. I just know we are really in a mess. And so I think that it's extremely important, and I understand people are struggling financially, but I also think that investing in your health right now is extremely, extremely important, because the better we make ourselves, the more well that we become, the less dependent on the system we become. So we become more self-sufficient. So eating a healthy diet, ensuring that we're getting proper rest, bringing that in as a priority, having a bit of daily movement, and looking at all of the medicinal things or the properties that are right in our backyards. And so I don't even know all of the different things that I have right here that would be really health beneficial for me and my family, but we're surrounded. And I feel like all of those things has been lost. Our ancestors knew those things. Even our grandparents knew those things, but those things never got passed on to us. And we've become so dependent on the quick and easy and all of the systems that we have out there that we've forgotten how to do, or are unaware of how to do a lot of these things ourselves. So I think, yes, it can cost a little bit. It can sometimes be out of our budget. And we often will I don't want to say use that excuse, because it's really not an excuse, but I think that if it's a priority, then we make room for it within our budget, whether that means we have to save or whatever it is, so that we can become less dependent. We don't have to go up for all of, to ER for all of the infections or all of the whatever. And I'm not knocking any kind of system. I think we need that. I'm just saying that there are things that we can do our own selves personally, that we become a little more self-sufficient and more mindful of our own health and wellness.
That was a great introduction, by the way, so thank you. I think like what I want to add to that is like, it's about investing in ourselves, right? Like investing in, and that's either going to take time or it's going to take money, right? But there is a wealth of knowledge within the holistic nutrition sphere. And I think that one thing holistic nutritionists do really well is that we're chronic learners. We really like to learn. We want to understand the environment around us. We want to understand, how to provide for ourselves in the most efficient way possible. And I think everything that's happened over the last few years has really just hit it home for me, is like, how can you be the most self-reliant and responsible within your environment while taking care of yourself, right? And so there's all these lost things that people knew how to do before that we, as holistic nutrition practitioners, are kind of trying to hone back into. So cooking, foraging, gardening, growing our food, connecting with our farmer, collaborating together. So like, there's obviously like these upper level things that we can do, like I know you're a metabolic coach and you can teach people how to live better as a metabolic. Well, I have mitochondria right here. we are our metabolism, right? Like this is really the reality of it. And I know this speaks to both like you as a metabolic balance coach, but also somebody who specializes in like blood sugar and diabetes and things like that. But I think there's so many tools that we have that I think are relevant in being able to take care of ourselves that we don't use,
Mm-hmm.
Cooking is one
Mm-hmm.
huge one that I think is relevant to a lot of people that, we rely on other people to do for us, and that can shift, us financially as well. But, how are we connected to that? So I thank you for sharing your opinions on that. Do you want to add anything to saying what you just said?
I feel like I covered a lot of it, and I actually feel like I kind of just,
Released something?
yeah.
Oh,
But I do think it's really important. Like you spoke about investing in yourself, and that's exactly what my point was. Yes, we all have budgets, we all have to stay within our budgets, but if we make those things, whatever we make a priority becomes a reality, really. Um, and
right, because
so,
we're in control of our reality. We're in control of what, and this is relevant not only to our clients as practitioners, but also to us. Like, and I think that's a gap that a lot of maybe practitioners miss, is that you're coaching your clients to go through the journey that you've gone on, kind of, is like, how can you get back to your roots and what it means to actually be a human living on planet Earth, and not connected to every little system that feeds you mindlessly and allows you to just not be conscientious about what you're doing. Would that
mhm,
be fair in your opinion?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know I've dug into like the whole foraging thing and gardening in the last couple of years. Like I'm getting really excited about it, and I have this whole herb wall that I've, either grown or foraged, and it's made me feel so like, I have tea in here actually that is, grown or foraged, and it makes me super proud almost to be able to say, hey, look, like I I did this. I made
Yeah,
this. I
yeah.
co-created this into my reality. Like this is what I wanted, and I was able to actually make it happen just by doing it.
Mhm.
And that learning step is invaluable. So like any time or money that you invest in that is not lost. It's just an investment in your future and an investment in the reality that you're creating for yourself. So anyways, I definitely think more people should forage and grow their own food because there's so many benefits to it. I could talk about it for days, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about business, where you're at with
Mhm.
business, what you see coming in the future for yourself in the next year. Are you ready to talk about that?
Sure.
Let's do it.
I feel like we chatted a little bit about this too. And as you kind of opened, you said you may want to call this podcast "It's Not All Butterflies and Rainbows." And that's exactly what I was saying earlier, I guess, in regards to going in business, um, holistic nutrition, I find, and again, I can only speak from my own experience, which is in the holistic nutrition world. But going into business is not all butterflies and rainbows. It is a lot of hard work and a lot of pushing and a lot of tears and frustration and days where you're like, I'm all done. I'm not doing this anymore. This is too much. It's a lot of, and then of course you still have to put food on the table, and you still have, regular everyday daily living expenses that you have to take care of, and you're trying to put into this business. And depending upon where people are at in their life, for me, um, again, I shared about the healthcare and all of those things, and I've not been working in healthcare since last December. So I've been really trying to push and work within my business and collaborate with different people. And I've looked and became a metabolic balance coach as well, and so I'm able to offer more of that. Um, but it's a lot of hard work and a lot of deep diving, and a lot being persistent, I guess. And so it's really, really challenging. Something that, looking back, when I did take my programming, I think it is so extremely, extremely important that if you're not in a school where you're working with a business coach, or you don't have much more than, a small 10-page document, to explain how to work your business, then you really need to invest in that. So, if you pay 10,000 for your course, I say equally pay that much for somebody to help you build your business. And so look at that in the very beginning, however much that is. I would almost say equal amounts for your course versus your business building, because honest to goodness, going into this, I remember looking at just the whole program. And of course it said, once you become a coach, so initially you become a coach, and then you can move on if you wish to become a practitioner. So you could be like a health and nutrition coach, counselor, and then kind of a practitioner. And so once you get that coaching, you're able to then start seeing clients and register, and license and so on. Great, I can do all these things while I'm working through the program. Therefore, I can pay the program off while I'm going through it. Yeah, no, that's false. At least it was for me, because that really didn't happen. I didn't know what I was doing. I remember coming out, and the first thing I needed to do was do my website. For what? Nobody even knows me. Right?
I love that you said that, because there's this, it's frustrating for me, and I'm going to start being more and more vocal about this. Is like, it is frustrating for me because I experienced it myself. Like, ultimately, that's why I'm here, is like, I experienced this myself. I thought, okay, as soon as I get certified, I'll be able to go and be a coach, and somebody's going to know who I am. And luckily, a good friend like hired me at the gym and was able to offer my services there. And so I feel like I had a shoe in. I didn't start with a website. I didn't actually have a website until I started my meal planning business, because I kind of rode off of the shoulders of other people, which I think you just need to have something to sell. And the thing is like, nobody tells you that you need that thing to sell, how much to sell it for, where to sell it, how to market yourself. And I don't know where this belief comes from. Like, is it because you've been interested in nutrition, you've been following other nutritionists, and so you think you go to school and they're just successful because they went to school? Do you get the sense that is like kind of how you took it too?
I feel like that, yes. And I had such a positive experience with my daughter. It's kind of funny because I guess a couple things I want to speak to. So one of them is, you could see that my passion that I had for health and wellness the whole time my kids grew up. Like through social media, I would just share with my friends. Like I loved packing my kids' lunches and making them healthy. And I would get like super excited when I could hide the greens and they would like love it. Or I could make like this super awesome protein shake out of something that might not be so healthy. You know what I mean? And throw all this stuff in that they had no idea that I was even throwing in. And so I would get all excited. I would share pictures, and then people would like message me and be like, oh my gosh, I'll pay you to make my kids' lunches. And so all of these things, right? So I think that part kind of planted the seed. Well, I'm going to be successful because I have all this interest.
Mm.
The other piece of that is that when I was searching for the school I wanted to go to, they speak to exactly what I just said around, once you get your coaching piece done, you're certified as a coach, then you can start your business and start selling, and you can make your money back before you even graduate as practitioner.
Mm.
So there was that little piece of me sharing all these things, and then that kind of was like, yes, this is great. And then I believe there was a little blurb around, we help you set up your business or whatever it was,
Mm.
our business blueprint course or something. So I was like, this is great. It's everything that I need to get going. Um, that's not how it was. And even though these people that enjoyed all my posts and sharing and whatever, I don't know what I thought. I don't know if I thought like these are future clients or what I thought.
Mm.
But not one of those people purchased anything
Right. Right.
from me, right? So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. And you know what? I kind of went through the same thing, I guess, when I was first like, obviously, I think like most holistic nutrition practitioners, they got into nutrition, A, because they want to help people, B, because they've probably helped themselves or somebody else, like they've been interested in the topic of, well, I mean, nutrition is such a vast topic and we could talk about many, 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 many parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we all kind of got into it for the same reason, and that we decided to get certified because we thought that that would somehow bring the clients in or make us validated in sharing the knowledge that we have. And I'm not saying that certifications don't matter. Like, I think they are important, and the education and what we get from them are very, very, very important. But I think there is kind of this disconnect that being certified is what's going to make you money, right? Like, it didn't change anything for you. Like, obviously you gained a lot of education and you invested in your own knowledge and things like that, but it didn't teach you how to get the people to buy from you. That's a whole other education. Like, that's a whole other,
Absolutely.
ball game. It's a whole other
Yep.
program. So I liked what you said, like, you should pay as much, for your education as you, and then a business coach as well, if you can afford it.
Mhm.
Or do you find, a way of, yeah, I liked what you said there. I guess the next question I have for you, like, I mean, ultimately, I brought you on here to talk about this because I know you are in the same boat as a lot of holistic nutritionists.
Mhm.
So, what has kept you in the game, so to speak? Like, what at the heart of it, the core of it, has kept you here? Because I know it's not all butterflies and rainbows, but what's kept you here? And yeah, why are you still here?
I think because I just love it. I'm very much passionate about it. I love, 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 love seeing and helping people to achieve their results, and their health goals. Like I have, a dozen or more people going through my metabolic balance program right now. And oh my gosh, the results. Like, I'm not even talking about just weight transformation. I'm talking about like overall general whole wellness, like of the whole person. And so that stuff fires me up. I get like super excited. And even like I'll sometimes run different free challenges and what have you. And it takes a lot of work to run a free challenge because you like, I just ran one, a clean eating challenge, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It was a week-long challenge. I turned it into a 2-week challenge because I felt like we're going to use a week so that we can prep and prepare you. Then I'm going to give you the challenge to do every week.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a lot of, it took a long time for me to develop that 7-day challenge, create all my posts, get the challenge ready, create the meal planning, do all the things, right? And sometimes I'll be like, why did I do all of this? But then as I see the people go through the challenge, it again, it fires me up. And I guess it brings that self, the gratification, but that it's so rewarding to see the changes that people make. And even if it's a temporary change, watching them experience it and the feelings and the emotions that they share as they're going through it is just so uplifting and rewarding. And I think that's what keeps me going because trust me, there's days where I'm like, I am so done with this. This is way too much work and I am not getting back what I'm putting in. And so, yeah.
I think like I want to speak to like the fact that is it's a common thing. I think I experienced the same thing when I was first starting in the gyms. Yeah, I was first starting out in the gyms. I would get results, but I never felt like the energy like was filling me back up, like, and I think that was more to speak to the fact that like I wasn't in the right niche. Like I didn't really enjoy working in the gym, so to speak.
Right.
It was
Yes.
more I was finding and filling like the ticking the boxes off that I thought I needed to tick off in order to be more successful. And I think that for me was where it caused the burnout. It wasn't heartfelt. It wasn't soul filling. As I like to say, it missed something. And so that's why I think it's important. Like, I know that we have all of the potential areas of expertise that we can go into, but to find like what really works in our business, and what works for us in terms of true passion and knowledge and expertise. So I want to kind of dig more into like asking you a little bit more about like your business, like where you're at, what tools you're using, what are some tricks that you've implemented that you've actually seen work. So I'm going to start with this one. What's the most exciting thing that you've learned about nutrition or business in the last 6 months? You may have to think on that one.
Yeah, I do. The most important thing
or interesting. What's something that was like, wow, this is going to help me? Or something that you've seen or experienced that, helps just, let's say, keep the faith, keep the passion alive.
That's a hard one. Something I have learned. Well, I think that when it comes to business and even when it comes to nutrition, there's so much to learn. And so it's an ongoing, so you can't just go into business in nutrition and probably any business as far as that goes and not do any kind of professional development in some capacity. So whatever it is, it could be like website building, it could be like marketing, it could be, like for example, when I started this, I really wanted to work with children and families. That's always been my background. And I still want to work with children and families. But, which I didn't get into this, but I have a child with type 1 diabetes who was diagnosed at 7 years old. So the story I shared earlier was slightly different than what happened after that. But so when she was diagnosed, I really took a huge interest in in blood sugar, because blood sugar really, it doesn't matter if you have diabetes or not. Um, Blood sugar has a humongous impact on our overall well-being and our metabolism. And so I guess going into this, what I've learned is what I thought I was going to go into doing and what I'm actually doing is two completely different things. And every single time that I've tried to venture out of the blood sugar world, I have found myself coming back into it some way or another.
Mhm.
And going into this metabolic balance programming last spring, it all had to do with blood sugar, and I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this long ago? Because this is I love to learn about this, and I love to. So I guess that would be one of the big things with going into business and choosing your niche. Definitely going with what you love and where your passion is. Um, and nobody really said to me, Helen, I need help with my blood sugar. It was everything that I was preaching and teaching went back to blood sugar, regardless of the age. So, energy and mood was the other thing, is because that's my story. Energy, mood, energy, mood, energy, mood. You would never think that blood sugar comes into energy and mood. And so here I was preaching these things, speaking of blood sugar in a very subtle way, that nobody probably even really picked up on, but it all relates back to. So I guess finding that passion and what really fires you up
Well, and
might be
being willing to pivot almost what your imagined idea of what your business would have been or should have been in your mind, to being ready to accept the fact that like you're probably your own ideal client, right? You have literally been through A to Z in blood sugar in some capacity or another, and everything around you is constantly bringing you back, right? Like you've gone to metabolic balance, your daughter's diagnosis, like you literally can speak to a person going through that issue. And I think that has a really important role in the messaging and the marketing that we do, is like, how do you speak to the parent who's going through what you went through? Well, I think your daughter's 16 and a bit now. So like starting, 12 years ago, like how do you talk to that parent who's experiencing the same thing, either within themselves or within their kids' health issues, right? Like I experienced the same thing with my son, like blood sugar and what he eats is 100% related. Like if he eats candy or too much candy, he loses it. He becomes a ridiculous human. Like we're like, what has happened? This is not the same child. And so I think this is just like a really perfect example of, leaning into what your skill set and passion is and continuing to talk about it. Like, what was your experience? How did you, find it as you were learning all of these things? So my next question is like, what's the one product you're selling in the coming year? And I think I know what you're going to say.
So definitely my metabolic balance program. I love it so, 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 so much. And it really, it's such an intertwine, I guess, of what I was already kind of practicing and preaching. I love it. So even prior to metabolic balance, I had a level up program, which was really a good, it's a 6 to 8 week program. We really look at cleansing the body, very gentle reset, look at food sensitivities, what those might look like. And then we start to integrate, CGM, so continuous blood glucose monitoring system. So there's that blood sugar thing again, right? And so, what that looks like, how your sleep is, if there's dips through the night, I always think of your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when we talked about some of the issues that you were having.
Feel free to share because I'm
Well,
fully
just
open.
like your like face paralysis and so on and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
and getting you on a monitor and finding out what was happening with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which was pretty fascinating. And as a fellow nutritionist and going through this together, I feel like there was a lot of kind of shared insight
Mm.
from one another, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess just going back to that. So even before the metabolic balance program, that level up program was my program.
Right.
And I still love that program, and I still put people through the program. It is amazing. So is the metabolic program. So the metabolic program really is around like weight loss, metabolic health, um, and so on. I love that it is really helping women with their hormones. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, last year alone, 1 year, of all of the participants that went through it that were on menopausal medications, 70% of them went off of their menopausal medications. So it is about metabolic health, but there's so many things that are like byproducts of this program once you start to go through it. And it's blood sugar and insulin are those big things that we really, really focus on within that program. So that's going to be my program for sure for the next year, because I just love it so, so much. There are challenges that I'm facing here in Nova Scotia. Um, I think there's a couple other provinces as well. So there's some issues around like the lab and so
Mm.
on.
Mm.
But I'm trying to push through it and to make it work, because I just have so much belief in the program and seeing the results and things with other people.
So I know, and I don't know if you remember that, but I remember like when I was going through metabolic balance, Farrah's gonna love us because we're just talking about metabolic balance. She's gonna think it's amazing.
Yes.
Lucky girl's getting a podcast and doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the stat was, but it was something amazing about when they were first kind of when the doctor that put this out was first implementing the program, like seeing the changes in terms of like cancer coming down and things like that as well with the people who took the program. So obviously, as you know, we're speaking to a nutrition community, we all know how like metabolism works and all the downstream effects that blood sugar can have on XYZ condition, you know, like all my autoimmune stuff directly correlated to food, directly correlated to what I eat, directly correlated to how much sugar I eat or don't eat, and like my symptoms and how those are either exacerbated by how well I'm taking care of myself versus how well I'm not taking care of myself.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's kind of back to that like responsibility piece is like, if people are wanting to take responsibility for their health, like they've got to get the information from somewhere, right? So, and I think we are the people that have to be doing the teaching on the ground, you know, like sharing what we know, sharing our experiences, sharing client wins, sharing, you know, everything that we're doing. I was listening to a business podcast the other day, and it was like, don't tell people what they should be doing, show them what you're doing. You know, like the best response that you, like from what I understand, the best response that you got was when you were sharing what you were doing with your kids' lunches and sharing what you were doing in your own kitchen and sharing those things. And I think if we can, you know, make this kind of mental shift that once you have a program or once you have a product that you're selling, it's not about telling them that they should take it. It's about showing them how you're living it. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely. I once heard too, from somebody else, which totally, totally kind of resonated, was be your best. You should be your best client.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, yes. right? Yeah,
You need to be living proof that what you're, talking about is working, right? And so if you're not showing that it's working, or you're not showing that it's possible,
right,
then how are people going to know? And I
right.
know that I've been dealing with my own health issues over the last couple years, and so I kind of stopped working. So it may seem like I'm flaky and I'm in and out of my business, but it was really like survival mode versus uh lack of wanting to work mode. Like, I know you know a lot about my story, but I haven't been super open about it. But it's like, for me, like, how can I start leaning into my business and using it as a tool to really inspire myself, but inspire others, and get, you know, more people doing this, and
Absolutely.
the only way, the only way we can do that is by, working and making it
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So one last question. What other business tools besides metabolic balance, because we've covered that, are you
Okay.
using right now that are helpful to you and that you think are worth it? If we were to talk about like the bare bones nutrition business, like, what do you think has been invaluable to you? What would you spend money on? What wouldn't you spend money on?
So, starting out, so I really, really, really enjoyed the holistic nutrition hub that you guys have.
Oh, thank you.
Like the software. I want to say the software program.
Yeah, it's a platform, we kind of loosely call it.
Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed that. And so I guess just a little something that I did with it was I would offer free nutrition assessments. And so I would use that. And so it was great. I loved it. And I was able to kind of look at that vitamin and minerals as well.
Mhm.
Different system, like the systems assessment. I feel like that was extremely, extremely, extremely helpful. And I think that it helped to kind of build that trust. I had people, and I would just put it out on my social media saying I'm offering these free nutrition and systems assessments, or I would do one or the other with people, and then I would have that opportunity to sit and have a bit of a consult with them as well, and they could kind of decide if they wanted to move further or if they were happy with that. So that was one of the things I really enjoyed, and I did find that the price was very, very reasonable for somebody just starting out. So that's one of the things.
Thanks.
And
I'm
then,
just
of
going to say
course,
thanks for the plug. That was not planned. So thank you for
oh, you're
that.
welcome. No, I think it was great. And actually, I want to say that I had heard about that, and that might have been how I actually came in contact with you.
I think so.
Was through a friend who was also using this, and she was like, "Hey, Helen, this is like super cool. Check this out." I'm like, "What? Where'd you get this? I want this." And so, yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. Um, And then, of course, the other piece of that, thank you, buddy. The other piece of that was it's my social media. Like, I'm a Facebook junkie, and honestly, like, I hate Instagram. I feel like we even talked about this. Like, I hate Instagram with a passion. And I don't know if it's just because it's not the platform that I started with. I don't know. I don't know why. Um, but yeah, Facebook has been really, really helpful. I feel like it's free marketing, a really great place to host groups. So you can have online groups. So instead of paying, X amount of dollars to host this group elsewhere, you can do that right on Facebook. And then if you want to keep the group up and running after, you can, or if you want to delete that after, you can. The challenge that I just ran, the clean eating challenge, that was done on Facebook in a private group. So I just have a group that I kind of love and nurture and give a bunch of goodies to, with a couple hundred people in there. And so every now and then I might do a poll and be like, "Where's everybody at? Do you want to do this, this, or this?" And so anyway, so that's what I did. That's what I use pretty much. That's pretty much my social media platform. So I do that. I've just recently joined with Better Practice, Better Practice.
Practice better. Yes.
And I really do like that. It can get a bit pricey, depending upon what you're looking for. You might have to upgrade and so on. But that is a very good one, really great place to be able to store, info and be able to upload documents and share documents back and forth because it's an app that your clients can have. So that's another one that I really enjoy. Yeah, I want to say those are kind of the things. Zoom is another one. You can do a lot through Practice Better, where you do have your, can have your meetings, your online meetings, face-to-face meetings. But I still use Zoom as well. So yeah, those are the ones that I use. I did have I don't, because, so I did have another tool that I was using that I absolutely loved. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was a scheduler.
Is it Calendly?
And I use Calendly. No, but I do use Calendly, and that's a free program whatever it is, platform thing,
Thingy.
thingy, that I use. Yes, that's really, really great because you can kind of integrate that into your, your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar or whatever. So that's really, really good to help me stay organized. But this one was a scheduler. I wish I could remember what it was called. Anyway, it was really great because if you stayed with them, you can reuse your content. So like if last year, November 12th, you posted, I don't know, the latte and you had all kinds of engagement on it, you can go back and you don't have to do anything except for click like reschedule and the date. So you don't do anything at all. And
It was a
it's
social
really
scheduler.
Cool.
So was it,
Yeah.
there's Hootsuite, there's Buffer, there's Social Bee, which is kind of a new one coming out. I'm sure I'm missing one, but I think, I think something that should be said is there's tools that make sense for when you're starting out, and then there's tools that make sense that you need when you level up, kind of thing.
Yeah, and just to add to that, because this is the trap that I found myself in. So you just want to get up and going. You want to have all the things. You want everything to be perfect. And all of those costs add up like really quickly. Like I was pushing like almost $300 a month on stuff. And although they were all great and beneficial, and I would have loved to kept them, obviously it wasn't sustainable because I was so brand new. So those are all wonderful things, like later as you move on, and you build your business. And of course, those are tools that you're probably going to really want to rely on, because if your practice is growing, then you're becoming more, busier, and you need all of the extra help that you can get. Right. So, but it isn't necessary in terms of a scheduler. If you use Canva, that's another one. If you use Canva, you can schedule for free. You can also go in and you can create your own, which I just actually learned this, but you can actually go in and create your own PowerPoints and
you just learned that?
Yes, I didn't know that. and you can record, so you don't have to, somebody told me and I'm like, well, how do I record it? And I have to go open a Zoom thing. And they're like, no, you create it on Canva and then you record it on Canva, and you can change your background. So if it's in your kitchen like this, you can change that, whatever. So I was like, oh my gosh. So there are some really great free stuff. Unsplash is another one that I use all the time for like pictures and graphics. So yeah,
well,
I just had to throw that out there.
I think that's great. I think that's exactly kind of what I was looking for. And in terms of like what tools you use, what your experience was, because that's my experience as a business coach too, is like too many people jump into too many platforms at the very beginning. They're not making any money. They're too focused on setting up their business and working like on the fine details instead of going out and selling that one product that is going to bring the money in to allow them to level up, to get, once they have the clients, to need those busy platforms, like Practice Better is great, but you got to have clients to put in there. You got to be actually selling the thing that, you're going to be putting the clients into. So, I mean, back to the Holistic Nutrition Hub, like it really was a platform for, I would say, for the beginner, for the nutritionist. And you can go so bare bones with it. Like if you had just the Holistic Nutrition Hub, just Calendly, you don't even have to have Calendly. Just the Nutrition Hub, just Zoom and your email and a computer and social media, you can kill it. And
absolutely, I agree.
that's all you need. Like at the very basis, like that's all I mean, I have a few things that I pay for, but it's very minimal.
And now too, like looking back, I really spent oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles of time. Like I can't even begin to tell you how much time I spent on building my website. Seriously, that was the very first thing that I did. I remember it was around Christmas time too, and I was working at that time, like within healthcare, and I was on Christmas vacation. And that full 2 weeks that I took off for Christmas vacation, I remember a couple days not even moving from the area I was sitting, which was on the couch, I believe, while we binged watched Christmas shows and whatever, which was great because I was with the kids and the family. But I was literally on the computer trying to build my website that whole time for nobody to even see it.
Right.
And I'm getting the most visibility through Facebook. When you go back and look at the stats, it's Facebook, and Facebook is free.
Right.
Very little traffic on my website. Even blogs and things that I post there. I'm getting more, I guess, like more traffic on that. With that, through sending them out in an email, or posting them on Facebook than I am right from my website. So there's lots of little things like landing pages and things that are free out there too.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's like the bare bone nutrition biz and like how to actually be successful outside of school, right? Like how do you get from, being a student to actually having clients? And I think keeping the overhead down is like one of the top things, because you're also paying off potentially your nutrition certification. Is there any last thing you would like to say before we finish recording today?
I could say all kinds of things, as you know, because we chatted forever before we even started. No, I mean, in terms of everything that we've covered, I feel like we did cover quite a bit. And it is like, this is naked material that I've shared. Seriously, like this is the real thing. And as I said when we first started, starting a business, a nutrition business, is not freaking butterflies and rainbows. It really just isn't. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of tears. It's a lot of long hours. There's a lot of things that go in there. And I am more of a people person than I am a business person. And so I'm not going to lie, I struggle in the business world, like the whole marketing. I don't like to feel salesy. I don't want to, turn anybody off, or, those types of things. So, so I think that somebody just starting out, those are all things that need to be discussed and talked about and brought to surface, so that they're not going into this thinking like, I'm going to make a wonderful career out of this and I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to get rich, because it ain't happening.
I think that's a great way to end it. And it's probably going to be like the opening of the podcast. Thank you for being naked on my podcast today with all things nutrition business, and sharing your story and your journey so far. I'm excited and encouraged to see what you put out there, and what we can help encourage and inspire people to do, next year.
Well, I thank you so much for, just for inviting me. And it was so nice to just catch up. It's been a couple years, I want to say.
It has been. So
Um, and it feels like a long, 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 long time. And so many things have happened in between. So it was really nice just to chat and catch up.
yeah, well, thanks for being on.